Alright, so, we are going to, this is going to be for your self-portrait project. This is actually the same paper that we used for the oil pastel. It's just a good, sturdy, heavy paper that's going to stand up to the media that you guys are going to use for the project pretty well. But first we need to prep this. So your project's going to be, this is going to be the, well, I wouldn't say this, yeah, it's going to be the smallest project you do in here. This is going to be an 8 by 10. But if you measure this gray piece of paper, it's actually larger. So if you measure this paper, it is 10 by 12. So what I did was, I did that on purpose because when it's all said and done, everything's going to look like this, and you'll see that you'll have a 1-inch border all the way around. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to sort of find that 1-inch border. Once we get that, then we're going to start gridding the inside of that area. So this area right here is 8 by 10. This will be where the drawing is. And then this will be left alone. Okay? And that there's a reason for that. Alright? So that's what it's going to look like when you're finished. So I'm going to show you guys how to do this. Now I will be using, I normally like to use the metal rulers for these demos so it's just easier to see. But these acrylic ones actually work best on this, so I'm hoping it shows up pretty well. Okay, so what I want you guys to do is go ahead and have your paper so that it's nice and tall, okay? So it's not wide like this. Zoom back out here. So you don't want it wide like this, you want it tall, okay? So I'm going to zoom back in. I'm going to show you how you're going to do this, okay? You need to take your ruler, just right up here at the top, and you are going to make a mark, and I'm going to use a regular pencil. You guys should be using 4H pencil. All your marks should be light, okay? Mine are going to be dark just so that you guys can see this on the video. So I'm going to make a mark right here where it says 1 inch. Right there. I need to clean up my mark there. You make your marks nice and clean so you know exactly where it needs to be. So again, make a mark right here where it says 1 inch, and then I'm going to make a mark over here 1 inch from the right side. So measure 1 inch from the left corner and 1 inch from the right corner. And if you got your ruler lined up like mine, you're making a mark here at the 1 and at the 9. Alright? So I'm going to turn this around. I'm going to do the same thing on the side. So now, if you guys look, my measurements are starting at 0, they end at 12. I'm making a mark here at 1 and at 11. Okay, so I made a mark here at 1, and I made a mark there at 11. Let me just zoom this back out. So from here, I'll just go straight down here across to the bottom. Move that up a bit so you guys can see. And I'm going to, again, I've got it lined up here at 0 and at 12. I'm going to make a mark here at 1 and at 11. Yeah, I know my phone's ringing. Alright, so just to review here, I was at the bottom of my paper, had it lined up on my ruler. So I made a mark there at the 1 and 11. So I'm essentially just measuring 1 inch from each one of those edges. Turn this back around. Okay, so I got my measurements here at the top, at the bottom. Okay, line it up. So my edge of my paper is lined up at 0, and it's lined up also at 10. I'm going to make a mark at 1 and at 9. Provided, of course, my paper doesn't move on me. So now what you've basically done is you've marked and measured where the border needs to be. Now you just need to connect these lines. And I'm going to zoom out for this so you guys can see this. So basically, what you're going to do is you're going to take your ruler, going to line up those marks, and then again, you guys should be doing this lightly. I'm going to be doing this a bit darker so it shows up on the screen. So use your 4H pencil and do this very lightly. You're going to just now draw those lines. Connect it so you've got your 1-inch border marked out here on your paper. Now I'm just going to go around in a circle. Make sure your lines are nice and straight, and you are lining up that ruler so that everything looks nice and straight. You do not want to be sloppy when you're gridding a project. So it should look like that. Okay. Alright, so I'm going to give you a minute there to draw on your border. Alright, next step, guys, is to basically start measuring out our grid, okay? So this inner rectangle right here should be 8 by 10. So if you want to make sure that you measured out your border correctly, go ahead and take your ruler and just check to make sure that this inner rectangle is 8 by 10 inches. If it's not, then you figured out your border incorrectly, okay? So mine is 8 by 10, so I'm good. And I would check all edges. 8 by 10. Alright, so we're good. Alright, so now what I'm going to do, and it's almost it's very similar to how we did the oil pastel, okay? Just we're kind of applying this in a different way. So I'm going to start up here at the top. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to mark every inch. And again, you've got to make sure that your ruler is set up correctly. So I have my 0 marked, matched up to this edge here of my rectangle. Not the edge of my paper, the edge of my inner rectangle. And then I'm just marking every inch from there. Okay. Again, you should be making your marks light. I am making my marks darker so that way you guys can see it. So after you measure it up here at the top, then what you guys need to do is you need to measure it down here also too at the bottom. Now, do not turn your paper around. Just move your ruler from the top now down here to the bottom and do the same thing. Start here at the edge of that inner rectangle and measure 1 inch every inch. Just mark every inch from there. So now you have marks every inch here at the bottom of that inner part of the rectangle, and you have every inch marked up here on that inner part of your rectangle. I did not make those marks on the outside edge of my paper, because again, this is going to be a border, so there's nothing going to be there. So now what you guys can do, I'll zoom back out here. After you mark those lines, now you can draw them. Again, draw your lines very lightly. Very, very lightly. I'm going to be making my marks darker so that, again, you can see them on the video. But your lines should be barely there. If you draw your lines too dark, chances are you will see them even after you're finished with your drawing, and that's not going to look good. So make those lines very nice and light. Do not put any pressure down on the pencil, and do not dig into your paper. If you do any of those things, you will see it in the end product. There's nothing you can do about it. Okay, nice and light. Okay, so right now it looks like this. So the next step now is to do the other set of lines. Going to basically do the same thing, except now we're on our largest dimension. So again, we're basically putting the grid on this inner rectangle. So I've got my 0 mark matched up to the corner here, and I'm just going to mark every inch again. Again, make sure you're doing this correctly and you're being really nice and neat with this. After you mark and measure them there at the top, just bring your ruler down to the bottom. Do not turn your paper. You're going to do the same thing. Okay, same thing. Okay. Once those are all marked and measured, top and bottom, you know what you need to do. Take your ruler, line it up with the marks, and then draw those lines nice and light with no pressure. Do not dig into your paper, and do not press down really hard. We do not want these lines to be here when we're finished with our drawing. Okay, finished product should look like this. Now I'm going to go ahead and number this. Okay, I'm going to start over here on the left side. Top box is going to be 1, and I'm just going to number them. Now, even though, again, this is the border, I want you guys to write those numbers on there very nice and light. I'm going to do this also along the top and the bottom. Nice and light, so you don't see it when we're done with the project. This also too just helps to make your confirm if you did this correctly or not. So you should have 8 columns and then 10 rows. Okay? So that's what it should look like when you're finished. Okay? The next step is going to be to grid your photographs.